Welcome to day 101 of the 300 movie challenge. Today we watched the highest grossing film of October 2002, which was The Ring. So,
Oh boy.
I have a history with this movie because I watched this. Well, I watched some parts of it when I was 7.
Wise
So
decision.
approximately
Very wise decision.
approximately when it came out because like my mom was watching it on cable and I came in at one point and so the scene that's like been burned into my memory since that point is the horse scene where like the horse on the ferry just jumps off into like the water and then it's kind of implied that it gets killed by the propeller or the rudder or whatever. But that scene I've always remember, even now, which is like 16 years later. So yeah, we watched The Ring. I watched about like maybe 2/3 of it at most. But this will mostly be them talking about it because I don't like horror movies and even okay. So my part is the parts that I could watch were pretty interesting and it was like well done, but that's all I can
Wait
say.
for us to talk about it and then you can add things.
Okay, go.
So this is a unique horror movie, at least in like American theaters and stuff, where it actually doesn't feature too much blood and gore and stuff in it, which
Mhm.
makes it much easier to watch for those that are very not don't do so well with blood, such
Yeah.
as me. So I was actually able to watch this movie and everything, and it was pretty interesting, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I actually, because most of the time, the horror movie, you're just sitting there and you're like, why are you doing this stupid thing? Why are you following that sound? Why are you opening? Okay, now you're dead.
The whole character trope thing of like, oh my god, what's that noise? Let me go look for it or whatever. Like, especially when there's like a real physical threat, like that's not how they've written the story. That's basically not an issue because the whole point of the story is like we don't know what's going on like at all, and it's not
Yeah.
even. And the thing is, you're not even sure if there is anything going on, right?
Hmm.
So like it's interesting how it's told in that way, where it's like you legitimately, because oftentimes with horror movies, the whole thing is like the viewer understands what's going on, but the characters don't. But like
Yeah.
I feel like that doesn't work because then you just end up pissed off that the characters are idiots, and it's like that doesn't work. That's not the case here. So
Yeah, you're kind of learning the information as the characters are learning the information and
yeah,
stuff.
and like you honestly don't really learn everything. Like
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
terms of exactly the nature of how this started, right?
Mm.
You know what I mean? You don't learn like the reason how the tape was made. You know what I mean? You don't learn that,
Yeah.
right? And you could argue though at the same time that like you don't need to learn that. And you could also argue that like it makes it more realistic because it's like there isn't a realistic way that someone would learn that,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So it's kind of one of those things where it's like you learn enough but you don't learn too much, and that can help it. But I don't know. For me, like personally, I feel like I could use like a little bit more of some sort of explanation. Maybe not so much like a how, but like I feel like the why is missing a little bit.
Yeah, because what I found kind of like weird was that everyone was very quick to assume that she was like a horrible person and irredeemable and everything, and they just labeled her as bad, like right off the start. And it's kind of like, okay, but why? Why this? Because I don't know, it just seemed kind of strange for me how that whole thing played out.
Yeah, no, I know what
So,
you mean. And especially like you know the whole thing about like she doesn't want to be like forgotten, but it's like okay, but like why?
yeah.
Right? Like I get it, like I guess on like a base level, but like why is her desire to why is that so important for her, therefore that this stuff happens? You know what I mean? It's kind of like
Yeah.
the exact why, the exact like catalyst in terms of why exactly is this going on is not really talked about at all.
Yeah.
it's pretty general, and again, once you kind of get over that hump, it's like it works in terms of understanding, once it's in terms of understanding, like, okay, because of this and this, but it's like that first because you don't get,
Yeah.
and it's kind of frustrating in that regard. So, but at the same time, again, like I said, it's almost like you could see how it is a good thing, because I don't know, it's really hard to say. Yeah, I don't know.
It's both like a good and bad thing, I guess, because in a way it's like, okay, she's the antagonist. You're not really supposed to understand why. But then on the other hand, it's like that then it feels almost incomplete at the end because you don't know why, too.
Mhm. Oh, well, actually, I mean, I guess spoilers. I was like actually surprised with how they were going by the ending, because I legitimately thought like, oh, they're going for a happy ending. Interesting. I didn't expect them to do that, and then they didn't, and I was like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? It was one of those things where like I was like, okay, they're all gonna die. I'm like, wait, they're not. They fixed the problem, and then it's like, oh wait, nope, they didn't. Okay, because that was the thing also, like that.
Double twist.
Yeah, that whole the scene with the guy near the end.
Oh yeah, the dad. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing clips from that scene, so I was like, during this whole movie, I was like, wait, where is that scene? And so when it was getting to the end, I'm like, wait a minute. And so I was just like, I had a suspicion, and I was thinking like, wait, would that like maybe like the sequel or something? But no. Yeah, so that's definitely something that I wasn't really expecting, but I don't know. It's again, it's one of those things where you still just kind of feel like, why didn't it work? Because again, it seems like it makes sense at first, because you're like, oh, her body was stuck in the well for so long, and so that's like the reason for why there's a thing going on. You're like, okay, and then she's freed, and then it's like, okay, you at least think like that's a reason, and they fixed it, and then but you could at the same time, it does. I did feel at the same time, though, I'm like, this feels like this isn't it, right? There's something missing.
Yeah.
And it's like, there is something missing. And it's like, ooh, but what is it? Right? It's like, there's more. And it's like, you think that there should be more, but you don't know what the more is.
Yeah.
So it's that
like,
weird, I don't know, it's hard to explain.
It's just like she's just doing it because, and it's like, okay, but why?
Yeah. And so, but again, especially the characters though do work quite well.
Yeah. They were smart.
Yeah, they were smart.
At the very least.
Sometimes
Yeah.
at least.
Well, okay, they were smart, except when like it made sense for them not to be.
Yeah.
But
Like the one scene, like you mentioned the horse.
Yeah.
I remember when she was like going up to the horse, and I was like, "What are you doing?"
okay, yeah, that was the one dumb
Don't
thing.
go near someone else's animal.
Yeah, when they're not there. And then when the horse was like visibly frightened and everything, she was like trying to calm it down and trying to pet it again. And I was like, that's not what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, because the horse is like in like
with
it's in
someone
like
else's
the horse is in like this like metal container with like tiny little slits in it. She's trying to like stick her hand in to pet it, and I'm like, that'd be scary as shit. Like, think about that. Like, you're just think about like you're in some like small container and you're just hanging out, minding your own business, and then some hand sticks in with some hole and tries to touch you. Like, that's fucking creepy. Like,
Yeah,
it makes
that
sense the
itself
horse
is
is
a
gonna
horror
freak
movie.
out, and it's like, because the main thing about horses that like I've worked with horses a bit, and the big thing with horses is that like, if you were going to touch them, they need to see you.
Yeah.
The whole thing with horses and why like people get kicked is because they like touch them out of surprise, and the horses don't know
They
that they're
get
there.
spooked very
So
easily.
yeah, so that's the whole thing where it's like, that totally made sense. Like, the horse was freaking out, and she was like, "Oh no, don't freak out! I need to pet you more." And it's like, oh my god, okay. So that was like the one time that was like stupid, but the rest was good.
Yeah, the rest was fine.
So, I do think, again, like, stylistically it does work very well, in terms of achieving its goal. Because if you notice, like, especially during the like kind of really tense moments, the colors were like the colors of the scene were very similar to like the actual videotape. This like kind of like that kind of greenish tint was there, you know.
Yeah, I found that really cool.
So
how
that
they
was
did that.
yes, that was an interesting kind of thing that they were working with.
And then they would sometimes contrast it with like the red coming from the leaves, even though that doesn't technically work that way, but we'll just let it slide.
Yeah. So
Color design.
that was interesting in that regard, and also I will say that the effect of that like climactic scene at in the apartment is really cool to look at. So yeah, even though again it feels like there wasn't really a point, but yes, that was really neat. I do think overall it's I like this movie even more than just like a little bit. I do like legitimately think this is a good movie. It's just kind of like it's definitely, you know, not for everybody.
Yep.
Case in point.
Yeah, and I do have a few issues with like kind of like the plot and some motivations, but I do like it. Mostly in terms of like a stylistic spectacle, and as Tara said about like a horror movie that's like not like gross. So
Yeah.
there's a few moments, but they're usually like very brief. And another thing that's nice is that like there's not that many like jump scares.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
There's a few,
I was very happy about
but
that.
not many. If anything, the movie actually does a really good job of like making you think there's going to be one, and then there isn't.
Yeah.
Which, if anything, makes it worse.
Like when in the beginning the girl is like opening the cabinets and closing them.
Yeah, I was so sure there's gonna be something like behind it when she like closes it or something. But nope, never happened. Because that's the thing.
I know, right?
Is that like so many times people are like, "Oh my god, the jump scare is scary." Like, no, the jump scare is not the scary part. The build up to the jump scare is the scary part.
Yeah.
Because it's the anticipation, and when that's like teased and like you don't get the release of the jump scare, you just get more and more tense, and you're just like, and it's like, you know. And so this movie understands that and it works with that really, really well.
Yeah.
It's like one of my favorite things from PT, the game thing, is that
Oh yeah, I think you showed me that.
there's a moment where there's a radio that plays random stuff, and at one point the radio says it says look behind you, and when you don't, it says like again like more demanding, like I said look behind you, and of course you're thinking like fuck no, I'm not looking behind me, but at the same time you're like, but I want to know what's behind me, right? And at least for me, when I first experienced this, and again like I've seen it different for other people, so I'm not sure exactly how this works, but for me, there wasn't anything behind me.
Oh.
And I feel like that made it worse, because I was like, oh shit, what did I do wrong? You know what I mean? It was like, because like, it's almost a thing where like, you know, you expect, because it's a video game, right? When I do this happens, right?
Yeah.
So when it like subverts your expectation like that, it's like you don't feel like you're in control anymore. And it's like that sort of helplessness is like perfect for like a horror kind of environment in that kind of regard. So it's kind of similar here, where it's like you think, oh, I'm gonna know when the thing is gonna happen, and then when it doesn't, you're just like, so.
That's a good way to put it.
It's a technique that I think is really impressive, and I mean not so much impressive. It's not like, you know, hard to do, but in terms of like, you know, not
understanding
it and not just being like boo, you know, like every like 5 minutes, which this definitely doesn't do. So
yeah, I definitely like this much better than a lot of other horror movies where they basically just go with, okay, horror has to be super gory, super bloody, everyone has to have the IQ level of like -20
and also the you know, someone just jumping in your face every 5 minutes.
Yes.
Actually, there's one scene that I want to point out. It was fairly early on. It was with the fly.
Oh yeah, when she was able to reach in and grab the fly.
Yeah, that was really good. I liked that a lot, because I was like, it's something where again they showed it earlier, and you're like, that's weird. Why is there a fly there? And then it's like, huh? Because again, it like just opens up a small thing where you're like, wait a minute, and again, it doesn't really come fully into play until again that climactic thing at the end. So that was kind of one of those things where I was like, because again, I remembered that scene, so I was like, interesting in terms of like the illusion for it and stuff like that. So I don't know, I like that scene with the fly a lot.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty clever what they did.
Yeah. I don't know. Is there anything else to mention? It sounds like Tara that like you kind of agree with me in terms of like
Yeah.
It's actually for what it is, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's just
for like a horror movie. Like I wouldn't mind watching it again, but.
Mm-hmm.
The washable parts were watchable, and I thought the washable parts were interesting.
So, yeah, there's your the
recommendation
Yeah,
question mark. I guess
It-
if you're not a fan of horror, find someone who you can watch it with, and the interesting parts you can still watch. It's just the scary parts you need someone to be there with you.
Yeah. But I also agree with Valen that I like it, but again there are some
Issues.
and stuff. So don't go into this thinking it's the perfect like horror suspense. Yeah.
It does make me kind of wonder about the original Japanese version, how that is different.
Yeah.
And like if maybe the that kind of issue with like the motivations and stuff are just a little bit better, but I don't know. I kind of like I don't know. I don't like reading like subtitled stuff just because I can't see it very well. So,
Maybe you can watch it dubbed. I don't know if they have it dubbed.
They
though.
probably don't have it.
Because there's an English version.
Yeah, considering there's this remake, probably not. But yeah. And apparently the sequel that came out in 2017 was like terrible, so that's something. Okay, all I could think of is that fucking Cool Cat video.
Oh yeah.
That's Tara, have you seen that?
I don't think I have.
Oh my
We'll
god,
show
we
you.
have to show. Okay,
We'll show you.
yes. Look up if anyone on YouTube just look up like Rings trailer Cool Cat. It's beautiful.
It'll be by Your Movie Sucks.
Yeah,
so.
yourmoviesucks.org.
I guess with that,
It's so
think of which I'm gonna probably be watching that now.
yes.
Bye.
Next movie will be well, you guys will probably see it coming. Bye.
Boy.